Da-na-na-na. MMA Curmudgeons. Hi, I'm Jonathan Snowden from BleacherReport.com, joined by Ryan Loco, and this is now the fifth time that we are attempting to record this, the second episode of the MMA Curmudgeons, because one of us is old, one of us is stupid, and both of those people are me.
This is correct, but I've heard the classic saying that the fifth time is the charm.
So the bards say, and so it goes.
And let me just tell you, you're very lucky that it is a Friday night and I am in a hotel in Verona, New York, with absolutely nothing in the outside world besides snow and just miles of vast emptiness. Otherwise, the fifth time would not be happening.
I'd like to believe you, and probably 10 years ago that was true, but you know damn well that Verona, New York, or Las Vegas, or anywhere else, that you'd be in bed right now on a Friday night at this late hour. I know that for a fact.
That is pretty much true. Verona, New York is actually the birthplace of Taz.
Of Taz? ECW wrestler Taz, who we would discuss on our Two-Way Dance podcast?
I made that up. I just wanted to mention Taz, who wrestles for ECW, which is weird because we host an ECW TV podcast, patreon.com/twowaydancepod, and you donate a little bit of money. All the money goes to helping ECW wrestlers in need. Jonathan and myself do not see a penny, much like from this YouTube cast that we're doing. And
that's right. In some ways, it's just like this one.
And basically, we just we recap episodes that aired in 1994. Because why the hell not?
It's pretty exciting. I have no idea where Verona, New York is. One of my favorite cities, though, when I lived in Europe, was a place called Verona, Italy. It's just like a really cool little off-the-beaten-path town, and it has like a pretty well-preserved Colosseum, where one time I saw like an opera, which is probably like the only time I've ever seen an opera in my life. And I assume that this place in New York is even better, though.
It's I believe that they modeled this city after the one that you saw in Italy, because it's pretty much
true?
There's a Colosseum. No, wait, that's a Little Caesar's Pizza. Sorry.
Much the same. We probably both have had pizza there, so that's something. So Ryan, we are here to discuss MMA and assorted MMA-related topics, even though we're kind of ambivalent about the sport of mixed martial arts. And that's what's going to make our video/YouTube/podcast different, is the fact that maybe we're not as enthusiastic about everything the way that some of these young whippersnappers are. They love every fight. Every announcement is great. This undercard fight is the best thing they've ever heard of. And we don't really have that in our bones anymore.
No, I've been doing this way too long. I also think that it's we see this like this idea that we have to support the sport, and it's our responsibility to just really support MMA and everything that happens in it, which is so stupid and so dumb.
And you know what? There was a time though where that kind of did feel true. It's kind of in the DNA of the sport, and even people who weren't around for that time, I think they pick up on that ethos. But there was a time where it was just us, like a small group of us, the fighters, the promoters, the fans, probably like 10,000 or so of us that really kept this thing alive. And it did feel like you had to fight for it if we wanted this thing to be around. And so I think that's kind of where that comes from. But it's really hard to kind of still present that message when the UFC is a $4 billion company, for example.
Yes, and it's 2017. It's way behind us. It's done. It's mainstream. Well, it's not mainstream, and I will argue that till I die, unless I die and it becomes mainstream. That
we'll quickly erase all the old podcasts where you said it was never be mainstream. Much like I'm like furiously deleting tweets that are no longer true.
But like, I still have to like explain to people what I do. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm on a plane and people go, "What do you do?" If I go, "Oh, I do a lot of photography for boxing," people go, "Oh, cool." But when I would say, "Oh, I do photography for like UFC," they'd look at me, and then I'd have to do the air punches, you know? And so
right.
I feel like until we get past the air punches, We still have a long way to go.
Well, so I've done this for 10 years or so as a quote unquote professional. Sometimes as a professional, I didn't make any money, but that's a different story. But I've done this for a while. I've written 3 books, 2 of them exclusively about the mixed martial arts. And I swear to God that my mom thinks that I write about professional wrestling. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that she thinks that these are all just different looking wrestling shows.
I'm gonna be honest with you. She probably knows that you write about MMA, but she just tells people it's pro wrestling
Because it's less embarrassing.
because she wants people to respect you.
That's right. She's like, oh, I would never tell them that.
Like,
Just tell them you're in pro wrestling.
They probably go, how's Jonathan? I see he's writing about MMA. And she'd be like, no, 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 no. He just did a retrospective on the Iron Sheik. So he's doing
That's right.
he's doing big things.
Come on, he would never cover that. He covers the fake wrestling.
My son has integrity.
That's right. And so that, in a roundabout way, brings us to Vitor Belfort, who has been on this entire journey we've described from 1997 to the present. As a 39, about to be 40-year-old man, he's been on this journey with the sport from its earliest successes to the middle period where it almost died, and right through its growth into a billion-dollar industry. Vitor has seen it all, but he may have seen his best days. You know, they're in the rearview mirror. He lost, I'm told, a fight to Kelvin Gastelum last weekend, and it looks like it's about it for Vitor. And so I think it's appropriate to talk a little bit about his career and what he means to you as somebody who knew him well, what he means to fans, and what he means to this industry. What is Vitor's legacy in the sport of mixed martial arts?
Before I get to that, I kind of want to see, you see people, they love to make fun of Vitor. They love to knock him. He's very outspoken. He's a very religious man. He likes to do unique haircuts. But I want to give you a list real quick. Just real quick. Listen to this list. Matt Lindland, Rich Franklin, Anderson Silva, Akiyama, Anthony Rumble Johnson, John Jones, Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, Dan Henderson, Chris Weidman, Dan Henderson, Jacare Musasi. Now, you would say, wow, that's a heck of a career list to have fought. Those are his last opponents in a row. The man
Right.
has had no days off. And say what you will about him, he doesn't shy away from a fight. He is always ready to go. He loves the process of being a fighter. He loves getting ready. He loves forming a camp. He loves bringing guys in. He loves to train them, and he loves to try new things. And so we've done this 5 times now, and I believe it was the 3rd time where I was telling the story of Vitor. So it's 2 stories, and they go back to back. First story is Vitor was training. It was either for it might have been for Bisping, it might have been for Rockhold, or it might have been for Henderson. I can't remember. And he gets a giant cut over his eye, huge cut, and we're like, wow, fight's off. Like, it's too close. There's no way this is ever going to happen. He runs out of the gym, grabs all his stuff, and says, see you guys tomorrow. He went to the doctor. He got these super special deep stitches, which might have been a lie, kind of like in Days of Thunder when they tell Tom Cruise that we put special tires so that your car will stick. But they worked. He's in the gym the next day, bandages on, T-shirt wrapped around his head, headgear on, back to full training, because that's the kind of guy Vitor is. Now, let's go to another fight camp. Again, might have been Bisping, might have been Rockhold, might have been Henderson, I don't know. He's doing like some judo tosses just because that's what Vitor does for fun. He lands on his shoulder. I heard it. I heard the pop. I heard the little, and I'm like, well, fight's off. He gets off the mat and goes, see you guys tomorrow. Don't worry. The next day he's in the gym. He has his black belt tied around his chest, holding his arm into place so that his shoulder doesn't move, and he's basically hitting pads with one arm. The man, despite what everyone wants to say about him and how he's just an easy target and it's so much fun, let's mock Vitor. The man loves to do this. And we might be at the tail end. He said he has one more fight in him. And I know that it's easy to poke fun at the guy. But when he's gone, that's an era of fighter that kind of goes with him.
Yeah, so you made a list of guys he's fought recently, and it's definitely a who's who of modern mixed martial arts, but without really I don't have it in front of me, but you could make a similar list from decades ago. You know, he fought David Tank Abbott, he fought Randy Couture, he fought Vanderlei Silva, he fought Kazushi Sakuraba, he fought Heath Herring, he fought Chuck the Iceman Liddell, he fought Randy Couture in another era, he fought Tito Ortiz, he fought Alistair Overeem a couple of times. I mean, there is not, you know, there are very few big names in his weight class and surrounding weight classes. He's been in 3 different weight classes that he has not competed with. Like, this is not a guy who went out there for easy fights. He's a guy who for almost 20 years now has gone out there to fight the very best people in the world. And so I definitely think that you have to tip your hat if you're the kind of guy that wears a hat. I'm a grown man. I do not. But if you do, tip your hat.
Whoa.
Wait, I can't take a. You're gonna be on the hat lobby.
Well, 1, I'm a grown-ass man that wears a hat. But 2,
Are you a professional ball player?
oh, okay. Well, no. Well, it's a World Series of Fighting hat. They pay me. But also, it's because my hair is in a very weird stage right now. I'm kind of in that middle stage, and I kind of wear the hat just so that my wife isn't embarrassed.
Wait. What do you mean by middle stage? Like you're growing it out, or you're balding? Which is?
No, I'm not balding. First off, how dare you?
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Actually, I did the 23. I did the 23andMe test, and it said that for my blood or my gene type, it's a very high possibility that I will never go bald. So, up yours. But so I'm 35, and so I was like, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grow my hair out one more time, just for old time's sake. So now I have like longer hair. You know, the hair goes down almost to my chin. It's getting there, and but it's still not long enough to look cool. I'm kind of like right before Brandon Lee in The Crow. I'm like, no, you know what I'm at? I'm sort of at like the dark-haired Sting, but not Crow Sting.
You have a bob. You've got a lady's haircut right now. That's what you're saying.
I do sort of have a bob, yeah. So that's why I have to wear a hat.
Okay, understood.
So well, what it is my hair is the Vitor Belfort of hair, where I am doing one last hurrah.
All right. Well, that's good.
Thank you.
I don't remember what we were saying before, but you know, you were talking about how Vitor kind of gets a bad rap, and it's kind of fun to mock him a little bit. And some of that goes to like Vitor seems like a weird guy to outsiders. And weird things happen to him. So those kind of combine to make him an easily mockable personality. And as someone who spent more time with him than I have, though, does he deserve that? Is he weird if you're around him for extended periods, or is he like a normal guy and we just think he's weird for whatever reason?
I think that he is just he's a normal guy. Like he loves life. He loves his family. He's an amazing family man. He enjoys the finer things in life. And I don't mean like he enjoys like, you know, spending a ton of money. I mean like he really enjoys like this is like really good olive oil, or this is really good pressed juice. Like this is the best coffee. And he loves, and he's very giving. Like he loves to share that. And he really is a very good guy. But I think that he feels like he has to give a message, and he feels that he has to be an inspiration. And so sometimes you catch him at the right moment and he kind of goes off on his tangents or whatever, and then it becomes easy fodder for everyone. And it's like, cool, I get it. And I understand too, as someone from the outside, if I saw that, I'd probably be like, what the hell is this dude talking about? So it's one of those things where you don't blame them for it, but I'm just telling you, when he's gone, right, it's going to be one of those moments where you go, fuck, I don't, like, as successful and as popular as he is, I think we're going to go, wow, I don't know if we appreciated him enough.
I think what it is like, so you're describing a man who's very sincere, and you know, he loves things unconditionally. He likes the good wine and olive oil. Like he's the guy who goes out and says, what a beautiful day, the sun is shining. I'm so happy, my friend.
100%.
And that doesn't necessarily jibe with the kind of the culture of irony and smarm that the internet has become. So
No, you know,
Vitor's not an internet man.
the reason why is because MMA fans are brutes. They are barbarians. Okay, Vitor, we would do training on the beach, and he'd say, "What? How can you have a sad face? Look at this sun. Look at this beach. Look at this life we have." And I'm like, "You're right." And then some dude in Iowa's going, "You're a fucking idiot."
Look at this dork out there liking things.
Yeah.
So with that spirit of positivity, I wonder if you have a favorite Vitor Belfort moment, because mine is it's probably one that many people have, but it's his fight with Vanderlei Silva at the very first UFC in Brazil, in which in 44 seconds Vitor managed to punch Vanderlei Silva at least 375 times. That's an estimate on my part, but it was just like right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, and he's following Vanderlei across the cage as he's just pounding on his face, and it's one of those highlights. The whole fight is the highlight, and it's one of the ones that, like, if you saw it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're never going to forget it. That's kind of my Vitor moment. And I don't know if you have one.
Well, my Vitor moment is the first time that he walked into our gym in Florida, because it was kind of unexpected, and just as like, so as a little kid, you know, like you got the UFC tapes and you're watching him, and there are certain people that are larger than life. Tito Ortiz is the reason why I got into MMA. Like, I enjoyed watching the other UFCs, but once I saw Tito, I felt like that was my guy, SoCal guy, Mexican dude, much like myself, bleached hair. Sometimes I would rock that too. But Vitor was also one of those guys. One of those guys that's almost on a next level. And so when he first walked in the gym, there was this weird moment where he like came up to me. He's like, "Hey, can you help me? Can you tie my glove up?" And like immediately, like 19-year-old me, 18-year-old me was like, dude, you're lacing up Vitor's gloves. And I was like, whoa, holy shit. I had the same feeling when I went to Tito Ortiz's house and we went fishing. And then, like, 17-year-old me went, dude, you're fishing with Tito Ortiz. And Jenna Jameson's upstairs. So that's kind of my Vitor story. My Vitor story goes back to Tito. That's just how it is, because Tito is my icon.
Well, everything goes back to Tito, I guess. So that
hey, you know what? He falls into that same category as Vitor, though. We're not going to really truly appreciate Tito until after he's gone, and we go, shit, we blew that one.
Yeah, I had a chance to do a really long interview with Tito and kind of explore his mixed martial arts career in its entirety right before his fight with Chael Sonnen, which is probably going to be the last fight of his career. And he's another one where, like, when you look back at it, as much fun as people have had with his crippling injuries, which I know it's really hilarious that the guy's broken his neck a bunch of times, and you know, look at that fool breaking his bones and still going out there competing. But like Tito's another one where, like, when you look back at it, he's really one of the formative figures of this entire sport, and these are guys that will be remembered. And so that's the kind of the nicest thing you can say about a fighter, because this is a brutal industry, and 98% of the people who step into the UFC octagon are not people you remember like a year or two after they're gone. They just disappear and another one takes their place. That's like the dirty secret of this sport. But Vitor and Tito and guys like that are going to stand the test of time, I think, and that's something they can be proud of.
Yo, so for real, before the internet got huge, when it was just Ultimate Grappling Magazine, what was bigger than Tito versus the Lion's Den? I mean, come on.
Nothing. I mean, that's what gets my juices flowing. That kind of stuff. Ken Shamrock trying to climb into the cage because Tito has a shirt that says "Gay Metzger is my bitch." That's what MMA is to me, and so it's something that we may never ever get back again. And that's kind of a depressing thought, but let's move on anyway and go ahead and finish the podcast and not just turn this off and start crying and give up on life as an MMA fan, because maybe one day something else will be as exciting as the Lions Den against Tito Ortiz.
I think the only thing left that's exciting is ECW television.
That it is from 1994.
Exactly.
Nothing is better than that. But they're trying. You can't say that the sport is not trying, because they want something that gets people just as excited as that Tito Ortiz Lions Den moment did, but they're going about it the wrong way. And what I'm talking about in this like kind of awful segue is the proposed fight between Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather Jr., a boxing match between the greatest boxer of his generation and a guy who is not a professional boxer. Some people are excited about this. It's all people are talking about. What are your thoughts?
It's one of those things I'm not excited for. I will watch it because that's just life. It's kind of how, like you say, you don't want to see a car wreck, but you still kind of slow down and look over just real quick,
right.
Take a glance. Like, boxing is a different animal. And that is not to take anything away from MMA. And I would say it the same way as if the roles were reversed and Floyd was coming into MMA. It's just seeing people compare old Floyd fights and saying, see how this guy got inside? See how this guy landed something? Conor could do that. You're comparing him to people that have boxed for longer than they've been alive, like for more than half their life.
Right. They're like, Jose Luis Castillo had a good showing against Floyd Mayweather 15 years ago. Like, yeah. And he was one of the very best boxers in the world in that moment. He was not a guy who had never boxed in a professional boxing match before. Like, they don't seem to see that distinction. And boxing is also very different than mixed martial arts as a business and as an industry. And so that's what, I think the reason that they're having such difficulty making this fight is that, the things are so different. Like, Mayweather is a true A-side. He's used to having complete control over the cards that he's fighting on. He's had that control since he fought Oscar De La Hoya, and he's used to making the bulk of the money. Like in a Mayweather fight, the promoter makes just a tiny percentage. Like, sometimes even Mayweather is just paying the promoter a flat fee to promote the bout. It's not like, that they're collecting the money and paying some of it back to Floyd. That's not how it works. And of course, the UFC runs a very different model where they take the huge, like 70% or more of the money from a pay-per-view fight. And so that's kind of a disconnect here. So, like, the only way this is possibly going to work is if UFC and McGregor are willing to split their portion of the pie. The portion that's kind of set aside for Mayweather's opponent. They have to share that money between the Dana and McGregor. Otherwise, like, there's no chance. Like, I don't see Mayweather giving up his portion. And so that's really the problem. Besides the fact that it's a laughable athletic contest, there are these huge impediments to it happening business-wise. And so I'm just skeptical that we're going to see this.
It's a laughable idea. It's amazing that someone can sit there and go and think that Conor has a chance. And that is not diminishing Conor's talent at mixed martial arts in the slightest. Jonathan and myself, we have discussed how Conor in the cage is unbelievable. He is one of the few, if maybe not the only guy, who makes changes mid-fight, who sees what's happening and doesn't just react based off this weird guttural instinct. He thinks. He's incredible. He's an incredible mixed martial artist. Fighter. Yes.
And the other thing that gets me about this is, like, so I understand that, like, the UFC is looking for a short-term influx of cash, right? They've just paid $4 billion, the new owners, and they need to start making some money. And that could be like what's kind of propelling this along, is that they need that quick buck. But you just have to think about, like, why are they doing this? Like, we've spent I say we because the fans and the media were a part of it. We have spent a decade or more uh, building up mixed martial arts so that to like the average fight fan, like it is superior to boxing. It's a better product. That's what we've been saying for years and years and years, and it's working to the point now where like mixed martial arts I think is bigger than boxing, at least in North America, and so and it's working. It's working right now with Conor McGregor as the top draw, like the biggest drawing card that the UFC has ever seen. And so when you have that going for you, when McGregor is drawing a million pay-per-view buys for mixed martial arts fights with people that nobody has ever heard of, like why would you want to screw that up and potentially put him in a ring with Floyd Mayweather to be turned into a clown? It just doesn't seem like there's that's not long-term thinking to me. Like I don't see like if Mayweather makes McGregor look silly, what's the long-term impact of that? Is UFC even thinking long-term? Do you understand it? Because I don't.
So I read something somewhere where people were talking about this is great for both sports. And really, I think that's sort of like this blind optimism. It's like this thought that people are just going to get together and say, look at how wonderful combat sports is. When in reality, you're going to have the boxing fan, the boxing media, basically saying, this is a farce. Stay in your lane. Why are you coming over here? And all it's going to do is further the argument that, did you see what happened to Conor when he tried to fight Floyd? It was a joke. Boxing is better, blah, blah, blah. And then the MMA side will argue, well, no, put Floyd in the ring. It's not going to solve anything. It's not going to bring anyone together. It's just going to make the divide even larger. I thought that WME, when they came in, they were doing these things about making money. But I thought that, yeah, some of these are very sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like impulsive. But
Yes.
I didn't think they were dumb. I thought they were impulsive but not dumb. However, I know I'm going to switch topics here a bit, but this has just got me going. The Anderson Silva Kelvin Gastelum, that fight
Right.
has led me to believe that they are both impulsive and dumb. It's led me to think that they're thinking very Hollywood style, where they go, hey, so and so just is in the news today. Let's give them a feature film. Instead of thinking long term, I had always been under the assumption that they put GSP and Bisping together because they felt that it was the easiest way for GSP to get the title, and then they could get GSP Silva for the belt. Because right now, WME is all about belts. They want to showcase a belt. They want it to be on a pay-per-view. There needs to be a belt on every pay-per-view, whatever. Seeing that they put Silva against Gastelum, who has more than a 50% chance of beating him, and a chance to ruin the GSP Silva title fight, even though I don't think GSP beats Bisping, has shown to me that WME is stupid.
No, I mean, I said as soon as GSP came back, like if they don't book him against Anderson Silva, something is wrong. And of course, they didn't book him against Anderson Silva, and now they've booked Anderson Silva against somebody else who, while I think Gastelum is a very talented fighter, I don't see him as like a guy that necessarily can carry the benefits of beating Anderson Silva into like some kind of long-term success at the box office.
Absolutely, it doesn't
Or
lead to
athletically,
anything.
right? He's 5'9". He has a 71-inch reach. Like those are both very small for the new weight class he's in, middleweight. So like, what's going to happen? What's the point of him beating Anderson Silva if he does? I'm not sure he's going to beat the top fighters in that division. So what's the point of it all? Again, I find myself asking that. And I'm not really sure I understand. And I think what this is really showing us is that WME came in and they insisted that the UFC keep Dana White, even as the other ownership kind of walked away. They wanted Dana for his supposed expertise in matchmaking and running this business. But I think what we're seeing here is what a Dana White run UFC would have looked like without the steady influence of Lorenzo Fertitta as the actual owner and decision maker, who could kind of maybe calm down some of Dana's wilder ideas, and also the absence of Joe Silva, the longtime matchmaker, who had an underrated ability to talk sense to people who may not listen to others. And so I think that's what we're seeing here is like, this is what UFC would look like if Dana White was actually in charge. And it's not really a pretty picture.
It's Thunderdome. It's carnage.
Well, Thunderdome was cool, though.
That's true. It's really just, it's now, I don't understand, because I don't see, if Gastelum loses, you've now basically, in pro wrestling terms, you've buried him. He can't beat an old Anderson Silva. What do you want from him?
Like, so, to bring it around to pro wrestling, I remember somebody on Twitter, I don't remember who, so I can't credit them, so I'm just going to steal it. They compared Anderson Silva against Gastelum. It would be like The Undertaker doing the job for ECW's Rhino.
Yes.
And I thought that was like a good comparison, because Anderson Silva is the Undertaker of mixed martial arts. He is this aging legend who still has this aura about him, but maybe doesn't move around so well anymore. You know what I mean? So, and if he's going to fight, it should be against someone of like age or someone of like star power. And that's not how UFC is treating him. And, I think that's kind of a shame.
It's a waste. We're not gonna get GSP versus Anderson Silva. It's not gonna happen.
And we've been talking about it for so long. I remember sitting in the media room and getting a chance to talk to GSP. He was about to fight. They were just announcing his second fight with BJ Penn, and people were already talking about a super fight with Anderson Silva. And this is years and years ago, and now it looks like they're going to both go through their careers and it's never going to happen. The two best fighters of their era are never going to compete, even though it's sort of a match that you could have made and that made sense and that people really wanted to see. And that's too bad.
It's a shame. It's actually really depressing. It's going to be even more depressing when Michael Bisping beats GSP and the whole crowd cries. I hope little kids cry. I want to see little Canadian children just in tears. That's my dream.
That's dreadful.
And I don't even like Michael Bisping. I don't even think he likes me. That's fine. I still think he wins. I think he beats Yoel Romero too. Yeah, that's right. I said it. He beats Yoel Romero.
You've got Bisping mania.
I do.
So,
and he hates me. Pretty sure he hates me, and I don't like him. Definitely don't like him. And I want to see Bisping Rockhold again and have Rockhold smash him. Sorry, I just got really angry.
So it's these kind of this kind of hater talk that has led some people on the internet to despise members of the mixed martial arts media, to the point that some person has created a website and Twitter account called the MMA Media Watch, and they launched their site, I guess, last week, and this is quite a thing. How many people do you think actually care about this topic? Someone kind of keeping tabs on the MMA media. Is this something of wide interest, or do you think this is like something that a handful of people are really way too interested in and most people don't care about at all?
I think that kind of goes along with everything in MMA. We sort of MMA is a very big Twitter sport. So people follow people who have the same opinions as them usually, and also are into the same things. So you go, oh, this is huge. Oh my God, all of Twitter is talking about it.
Right.
And really, that's nobody. Because
it's the same 50 people, right?
Yeah, I see Joe Average, casual UFC fan, who talks to me all the time and goes, hey, what's that Anderson Silva fella? What's he been up to? And you know what? That's your normal UFC fan. They don't follow the sport. They tune in, they check it out, they like who they like. But really, the people on Twitter, you're psychos. Like, no one cares this much. I promise you. People in the real world don't care this much. So this MMA media thing, yeah, it might be like tons of retweets falling around, but it's going to be the same exact people retweeting it from now on for forever. No one cares. We're not that important.
It was kind of interesting for me. I looked at it because my name was in it, and so I can confirm that basically it's about the time when Ariel Helwani from MMA Fighting and Esther Lynn and EKC from All Elbows were briefly banned from the UFC, and this infuriated the rest of the MMA media in a way we have never seen before. Like when I was banned, or Loretta Hunt was banned, or Josh Gross was banned, we didn't get this kind of love shown to us. Perhaps I don't know why, but this was different. And so there was like literally hundreds of emails exchanged discussing what we as a group were going to do about this. And so that whoever runs this website has obviously gotten a hold of those emails, and and it's I don't know, we kind of look like a clown show. Like we are the Conor McGregor to the UFC's Mayweather. I don't know. We look kind of impotent and sad as a group. We MMA media.
Yes.
That's all. Yes, you agree.
You do. It's just this weird. So like, I think obviously people were upset about Esther and Casey and Ariel because they like them, and not very many people like you. I do.
See,
I like you, but I'm just saying, and Josh Gross, I like Josh a lot, but he didn't have like that nice appeal to him. Does that make sense? And I'm not taking anything from Josh. I'm not saying he's not nice. I'm not saying he doesn't come off as nice, but there's something very warm and fuzzy about Esther and Casey, and rightfully so.
For sure. Everybody loves them.
They're warm and fuzzy people. I like them a lot. And Ariel has become the leader, basically, of MMA journalism. He is the first person you think of. So obviously there's going to be outrage.
Right.
But I mean, this is something that's been going on for a long time. And also, I mean, I don't mean to be a jerk about it, but they can let in whoever they want, and they can kick out whoever they want.
Oh, this is true. They definitely have the right to provide access to whoever they choose. I think something else was going on there, though, beyond the fact that people love Casey and Esther and Ariel Helwani as the biggest media star that MMA has ever produced. Those are important factors, and I think that's the Ariel Helwani factor is what got outside media like Rachel Nichols and the guy from Sports Illustrated and people like that. Rich Eisen, I think, tweeted about it and discussed it. That Ariel's presence is what got them interested. But I think what really kind of scared the traditional MMA media in a way, like, it's easy to say with Loretta Hunt and Josh and me that, like, okay, these were people that were writing stories that they knew the UFC wouldn't like. So the idea would be that we kind of asked for it. We knew what we were doing. We took that risk willingly. I think that the difference that they see with Ariel Helwani, this was happening, and we learned that, he was working for the UFC and getting paid while he was a journalist, and he admitted that he was pre-screening his questions, so, like, he wouldn't ask anybody stuff that they didn't want him to ask. Like, all kinds of stuff was going on, and, like, so if UFC was going to ban somebody that was so easy on them, and was basically worked for them and was happy to make things as easy as he could for the people in the industry, like, if it could happen to him, then it could happen to Kevin Iole, and it could happen to John Morgan, and it could happen to anybody. If it could happen to him, it could happen to anybody. And I think that's why they got so interested. Self-interest. They said, if they're gonna reach out and tag Ariel Helwani, what's to stop them from tagging me? And that's what's going on there, in my opinion.
I feel you. How about this? Run a tighter ship. Don't let the Brock Lesnar news leak. We wouldn't be here.
That's true. All that. I mean, and at the end of the day, like, who cares? To me, it's like, who cares? Like, you're going to announce that Brock Lesnar is back one way or the other. It seems like
oh
a dumb
no,
thing to be upset about.
oh no, now more people know about it.
Oh no. Or if you're Ariel Helwani, and you know that this news is everyone in the fandom is going to know this within minutes anyway. Like, do you want to risk your relationship with the biggest promoter in the sport to get that like kind of incremental boost to be like, oh, I told you about this 2 minutes before it was on television? I don't know. I could see it
But
both ways.
you do have to give him credit though, because he probably could have sat on it.
For sure.
No one would have been any wiser, and he could have reported it, 1 second after the little clip aired. But instead, he was like, "No, this is news, and it needs to go out," and I'm cool with that.
Yes. And he was good with he took that big stand for a moment, and then was crying on his video cast a couple of days later, like, I'm sorry guys, please forgive me and let me back. And so they did. And so maybe that's the end of this MMA media watch. We've been watched, and history has been written, such as it is, and it's not really that interesting.
It really isn't. I'm glad we talked about it.
I'm glad we did. What was it? Now I've probably gotten myself in so much trouble saying those obvious truths, like assuming anyone listens, they're going to be so offended, that I said these things. But whatever. No going back now, right?
No.
So what people are interested in, though, not the MMA media watch, but they are interested in sex.
Yes.
And if that sex involves
I'm having
famous
it right
people, it doesn't count if it's just you.
Oh, shoot.
So if it's famous people involved, famous women, if they're involved in professional wrestling, of course, it's even better. And so the internet exploded today with the release of stolen, I guess, videos and pictures of WWE wrestler Paige involved in various sexual escapades, and this was a big deal.
Yeah, and so it's weird because I'm an adult now. And it really does suck being an adult. But, back when you're like 16, 15, the internet's out there, and you'd like the first thing you type is naked pictures of Sable or naked pics of Sunny. And like, oh, wow, this is like a big deal. Like, oh my God. Now I'm 35 and I'm like, I feel awful. Like, I feel really terrible for Paige and for everyone involved. That's just an awful thing to have happen. I can't imagine how they feel. And I think it's kind of like depressing. It's like, it's really sad. Like, what is the benefit of leaking someone's nudes? Like, I don't get it. And it goes for everyone. Like, it happened to Seth Rollins. It's happened to quite a few people. And it's just like, and I still think it's also funny. I haven't seen all the Paige stuff. Not that I'm looking for it, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know what's there.
Right.
But like, it's like, it's nipples.
No, there are videos of her engaged in sex with Xavier Woods of the New Day, while some gentleman who used to be like a manager or announcer or something, I don't know his name, is also there naked filming. So
let me ask you a question.
Yes. All right. Ask me.
Have you ever been to a concert?
Yes.
Have you ever been to like a fight?
I have. Yes.
Okay. Like, you ever recorded on your phone?
Well, I have attempted at every UFC I've ever been to take like a picture to like put on Facebook and be like, "Ha ha, motherfuckers! Look how close I am to this UFC fight." And someone always yells at me. Like, they never yell at any of the other people, but if Jonathan Snowden did it, some UFC PR person was going to yell at me. But I'm making it all about me.
Have you ever recorded a fight or recorded an intro or recorded a concert?
Yes, with the power of my telephone. Yeah, for sure.
And like,
I've not ever recorded other people having sex.
Right. Okay. Now, do you go back and do you watch that concert a lot?
Never.
So when you go to a concert or you go to a show and you see people recording it on their phone, you're all fucking idiots, because it's going to be awful. It's going to sound terrible. It's going to be shaky. You're going to hear other people talking, and you're never going to watch this shit ever again. Ever again. You're in the moment. Enjoy it. I'm basically saying, for the same reason, why would you record yourself having sex with your cell phone?
There is like no benefit to it. That's
You're,
what I was wondering. So like,
are you gonna watch it again? Are you really gonna watch it again? Like you can't remember it? Like who you gonna show it to people? Like there's no benefit to it. I'm not blaming anyone. It's whoever hacked the phone. That's
right.
they're the bad person. I'm not blaming anyone for doing it. You know, I'm not blaming the victim. I'm just saying in general, it's a stupid thing to do. I have
Well, so at this
you know how many
this point
videos I have
though,
on my phone? I have a bunch
how
of
many?
videos on my phone. Bunch. The only ones I watch are the ones of my dog. That's it.
Right. Yeah, so for me, it's like the kids. Like those are the ones we'll go back and look at sometimes, or the cats if they're going to be in a wrestling match, which sometimes
Like
happens.
you're not going, oh, check this video out. This is the entire Welcome to the Jungle from Guns N' Roses in 2014. Check this out. And then you see this blurry thing jumping along the screen, and all you hear is like, yeah, that's great. Thanks, Dave.
Like yeah,
Thanks.
no one has ever wanted to look at like Ken Shamrock's walkout for the Hoist Gracie fight in Bellator.
Right.
But if anyone ever does, I have it on my phone. So um, yeah, so like we don't want to victim blame, right? Like this is
No,
bad.
I'm not.
It's
victim
bad
blaming.
that this happened, but at the same time, like it's 2017, and you understand. You have to understand. Like there's no way you can not know, considering what happened last year, where they released tons of nude photographs and videos of other celebrities. That you know that this is possible. Like if you put this in the cloud, you put it on your phone. You are undertaking significant risk at this point, and everybody should know that.
Oh, 100%. I got yelled at yesterday for trying to buy something on my phone and putting in my credit card. Guy next to me was like, "What are you doing?" I gotta buy this upgrade for my flight. You just typed your credit card into your phone. Yep. Dude. Yeah. They're gonna steal your credit card. And I looked at him. I go, I don't care.
Let them try to get something out of my credit card. I've already pushed it to the limit. Hackers,
honestly,
Russian hackers. I've done all that can be done on that credit card. Trust me.
It could be the same thing if someone's like, "Yo, you just took a picture of your penis." Yep. They could hack it. Uh-huh. People are gonna see it. So be it. A lot of people have.
So it goes.
Enjoy the
But
show. But
it does kind of like make me think about like in the olden days when you were talking about when we were younger and the internet was brand new, and for a long time I think the most like downloaded picture on the internet was WWE diva Sunny in a bikini, like and it would take you like 25 minutes to download one JPEG, a tiny little JPEG, using your like net zero dial-up free internet, and that was like a big deal. And things are not so innocent anymore. Like I saw these pictures of Paige without ever attempting to. They were just attached to people's Twitter messages, and they come up immediately on your computer or your phone.
The best part is? The best part is when people like tweet the link with photos and then go, "Oh, this is awful. Oh, I feel so terrible."
Right. I've downloaded and attached these to my message, but boy, it's terrible.
This is really, really awful. Look at these naked photos. I can't believe people are looking at them. Here's the link.
Does anybody have them in a higher quality, which are equally awful? I'm sure. Not for me, but I just want to make sure they're not out there.
And then it's really awful too. And I know I'm showing my age. I don't even have kids, but like when they're like, oh, they're like rooting, like, oh man, good for Xavier, good for Brad, way to go. They got like they had sex. Like, yeah, congrats. Like, what? Like, why is it bad for Paige to have sex?
Right, double standards.
Like,
God damn it.
Let everyone have sex. Why do you care who has sex with who?
Well, at the end, also, like the bottom line is what I said. Like these are young, beautiful people. Like, why? For God's sake, they should be having sex. Like, please do. Like, you should.
Like,
you're young, you look great. You feel good. Do it, please.
Whenever I see young people that are beautiful, like 21, 22, and don't realize how awful the world is, I'm like, please just have lots of sex. I'm in a hotel in Verona. Please go have lots of sex. Don't videotape it, but please have lots of it.
Yeah, when you're tempted to be watching a video of it, just go and do it again. And so, anyway, that is a thing that happened, and we are too old to enjoy it, and we are just old enough to be kind of depressed that it happened.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the story of our lives in about everything.
Pretty much, I'm depressed about everything.
And so, that brings us to Twitter. Depression.
Oh, great. That's not depressing.
So yeah, that's always guaranteed to lower my mood. But there are some good people on Twitter, and when I put out a call for them to ask us questions, they delivered. And we got too many to use, but I'm going to just go through a couple of them, and because these are important, and people need to know what we think.
Hit me.
And so a gentleman named King Gav, at Gav was his name. I don't know how many A's that was, but it was a lot. So he asks, is there a human being alive who is greater than Nick Diaz? I can't seem to think of one. And this is a good question.
No, because Nick Diaz one time during an interview decided to talk about how great organic chocolate was. And see, here's the thing. Like, people have this idea of, like, the Diaz brothers of, like, oh, they're just, like, these thugs and these brutes. And it's like, really, no. You're like, they're just bored. They're bored with you. When you get them on a topic that's not boring to them, whether it be organic chocolate or whether it be triathlons, they could go on for hours. But you know, like, really, you kind of just bore them. Not you, personally. I mean, just you as the royal you.
Right. I once wrote an article that was the headline was Nick Diaz is the greatest man to ever live, and so this person is reading my mind. And if there is someone greater than Nick Diaz, it's Nate Diaz, and we could have that debate. But I'm going to go ahead and side with Nick and say he's the greatest person alive. And so no. King Gav, there is not a human being alive who's greater than Nick Diaz. I'm going to say no.
Anyone who sits in traffic and gets mad and then goes, oh, fuck your mother. Pretty A-okay in my book.
All right. So we've settled that question. Now, at MMA _ nostalgia 47, sounds like an old person, much like us.
Great.
Wants to know, what's your most unpopular MMA opinion that you firmly stand by?
Ooh, okay. So this actually kind of ties into what I saw that Julie Kedzie wrote to you about what makes a perfect fight.
Well, that's going to be our next question.
Well, good.
So you want to say?
I can segue into both.
All right.
My unpopular opinion is you can't have a perfect fight in MMA. And the reason for that is there's no story in an MMA fight. The rounds, the style of fighting, the time, the brevity of it, it doesn't allow for it. There is a certain story that can be told in boxing. You have 12 rounds, 15 rounds. You have 3 minutes, you work, then you have a minute, and you see adjustments, and you watch those adjustments come to fruition. And with MMA, you sort of lose that, because you might see a guy start to make an adjustment, and then he's taken down, and then for 4 minutes he's on the ground. And I have a hard time rewatching any MMA fight, and I have a hard time labeling any MMA fight as, like, whenever they have those things on FS1, like the top 10 greatest fights, and they air them, I turn it off. It's boring. Sorry.
All right. So my most unpopular MMA opinion ever.
Wait. Are you going to tell me that I'm right? Am I wrong?
No, I think there's something to that, because, okay, I've always said that, like, there's more narrative in a boxing match, and there's more time for it to develop and for stories to unfold. And just because of the nature of it, I think there's more horrible things that can happen in a boxing match, where people take a ton of punishment and then subsequently come back from that punishment to really show the power of human will and their own fortitude, both mental and physical. Like, that's more likely to happen in a boxing match where it's divided into more stanzas, and there's more chances for someone to recover and come back. And so, like, there's something that's epic about a big boxing match that it doesn't really exist in MMA, and I think I definitely agree with you on that.
I just wanted you to say that I was right.
Yeah, totally, you're right. So
Thanks.
my most unpopular MMA opinion of all time was immediately after Brock Lesnar fought Shane Carwin um, in an epic UFC heavyweight fight. I made the point that this was not great mixed martial arts. It was a great fight in the sense that it was exciting and there was drama and they were evenly matched. But my point was that when you just look at like pure skill, there was not a ton of it being shown, and that was a very unpopular opinion at the time. Although I believe it was later proven correct by subsequent events and what happened with Brock Lesnar's career. And so that was an unpopular opinion that I kind of stand by.
Well, it sort of goes along with my idea that people love to say that mixed martial arts is this crazy evolved thing now, and in reality, really, you can go in as a really dominant wrestler and still win.
Right. And what happened in that fight was one giant brute punched another giant brute so many times that the first giant brute was just exhausted, couldn't punch anymore, and then the other guy laid on top of him and sort of squeezed on his neck a little bit. That's what happened.
And
That was the
and
narrative of that fight.
what's funny is that fight could have happened at UFC 1, and we wouldn't have
Yes.
been any the wiser.
Right. And so that was what my point was that like these are not fighters at the highest level of skill. These are big, tremendously scary human beings who could destroy you, but it wouldn't be because of their great level of technical acumen. And I stand by that one.
Once again, you're right. You're
All
always
right.
right.
So to segue into the next question by our friend Julie Kedzie, a retired mixed martial arts fighter and matchmaker and announcer for Invicta Fighting, she wanted to know what's our idea of a perfect fight.
Doesn't
From
exist.
from the experience level of the opponents to the way each round plays out, what's the perfect fight? Ryan says it doesn't exist.
You know what's weird?
To
You
me,
know what's really weird? Sorry to cut you off. Um, Sarah McMahon versus Maisha Tate. I've mentioned this fight like 3 times this week for some weird reason.
right?
That to me is pretty close. It really like it was Sarah McMahon, and maybe I'm like making it more beautiful in my head, and I'd go watch it and I'd be mad at myself for saying this, but I felt like, and maybe you have a recollection of it, Sarah McMahon dominating Maisha, really looking at it like there's no chance for Maisha to win. And then Maisha in the third round sort of figures it out, grinds it out, has the will to overcome Sarah and win the fight. And that was, to me, the closest to a story in MMA that I'd seen in a long time.
All right, so I don't remember that fight. One, two. I love that you are calling her Maisha, like that old song Aisha, the girl that I never had. Um, I
What
don't
is it?
think that's how she says it. I think she
Is it
says her name
Misha?
Misha.
What did
Misha.
I say?
Not you said Maisha.
I did?
You did.
Maisha. That doesn't even
I
sound
like that.
right.
I like that better. I think she
But that
should go
doesn't
with
even
that.
sound right when I just said it, so why would I say it? Maisha. I
I don't
said
know.
that? Maisha?
Let,
Misha?
let the people press rewind and find out for themselves who's right or wrong here.
But you know, it's like one of those things now when you see a word a bunch of times and now does it make sense? Maisha? Misha.
It doesn't
Oprah?
make sense.
Uma. Oprah.
Exactly. It's a bit. All right. So my idea of a perfect fight. I'm not sure that there is one, but I'll tell you what does it for me is like you can't really define it. It's like a feeling. And to me, what I like about watching mixed martial arts are the people that go out there and you know they're giving everything they have to win. And so when there are really highly skilled fighters that I can appreciate what Frankie Edgar and guys like that do. I can appreciate the skill level of it, but that's not what I love about mixed martial arts. What I love is like the old school, like Ensign Inoue, going out against Igor Vovchanchyn in the Pride Fighting Championships, knowing that he's outgunned, knowing that Igor has the heavier hands, and standing in the pocket anyway and throwing punches like a crazy person, willing to go down for the sake of his pride and his artistry, and to show that he's a man, like Joey Styles would say about Mikey Whipwreck in the ECW. That's what I love. That's why probably like my favorite of the modernish MMA fighters is Diego Sanchez. So he may lose some fights, he wins some fights, but if Diego is going out there, it's for the purpose of winning
Isn't
and
it
giving everything he has.
isn't it crazy how in this sport people care so much about wins? And I know that sounds weird to say, but MMA is so fixated on winning because if you lose, you suck.
Well, some of it goes
Whereas,
back. It goes back to the fact that like a lot of these people started it. Like that's why they're doing it, is to see whether they're better than the other guy. Like it's not for money, because there wasn't any money when these guys were fighting and when they started. And there's still not money for like 75-80% of the people in the UFC are never going to make any money from this. They're going out there just to see. Like, am I tough? How tough am I? Am I tougher than these other guys? And that's there's a purity to that you can't help but respect.
yeah, but it's just funny to me, like, you see in, like, boxing. Okay, dude lost. It was a great fight. Kovalev Ward. They're running it back. I can't wait. Who cares who won that? Who cares? The Gotti Ward. Ask people how the trilogy went down. Ask them the order it went. Who won which one? And people go, I don't know. It was good, though. Those two
Right.
guys are warriors. But in MMA, it's you lose and you're awful. Kickboxing, after a kickboxing match, they hug and they go, man, that was a great fight. That was great. And people go, his stock went up after that fight. Doesn't matter that he lost. But in MMA, because you're all brutes, you're all barbarians, you eat with your hands, and you don't realize that it's not about wins, it's not about losses. It's what I think about you.
That's all that matters.
That's
And
it.
the one thing that Julie said though is like the level of opponent. And I'm like there are fights I remember from people who were probably not really that good. Like I remember this fight in like the old WEC between Olaf Alonso, I think was his name, and he was fighting
Alfonso.
Alfonso, and he was fighting John Polakowski. I think they ended up fighting like 3 or 4 times, but this was the first fight. It was like WEC 9, 8 or 9. Anyway, I had this on tape, and these guys fought to a split decision. They weren't great fighters, but my God, did those two guys go out there and have a fight? And like that's the thing about mixed martial arts that you can love. Like even if it's not at the highest level, like when there's passion involved and there's heart and they care so much, even though they really shouldn't, that can still move me, and that's the closest that you get to a perfect fight, Miss Julie Kedzie.
Yes. Thank you for that question, Julie Kedzie.
And so
Future professor? Is she going to be a professor? Something?
I think that she's going to be a writer. I think
Oh.
she's like at a
Oh.
writer's
For some reason,
workshop, or
I knew she
she's
was doing
getting
writing,
an
but I
MFA.
thought like it was so that she could be a professor. She just has a professor look about her.
Listen, it's 2017. Julie Kedzie can be whatever she wants to
She
be.
can do whatever she wants as long as she keeps her mouth shut when the men are talking.
As long as she knows her place, she's going to be all right.
Yeah, that'll teach her. Ha ha, chick fighter.
All right, so let's. Glad that she's not here to respond to that
to
in person.
kick my ass.
And so one final question. This one comes from @the_Neymark. I don't know if you know this man. He was a legend of the early mixed martial arts and wrestling community online. He was a writer for the Death Valley Driver Playboys, and he was the original creator, I believe, of calling Ken Shamrock Ken Glamroid or Shamroid. So anyway, a legend, pure legend, Mike Neymark. He wants to know, best overall fighter, UFC 1 through 10, has to be Don Fry, right? That's his question. Does it have to be Don Fry?
Oh, man. I mean, Dan Severn's still fighting. So, I mean, that's pretty good, right?
That's true.
Man, I mean, I have a soft spot for Oleg. I have a soft spot for Tank Abbott.
And you have to consider Hoist Gracie too, right?
No, I don't.
You
Don't
don't?
really. No, never.
You don't think about Hoist Gracie
Never. Ever.
in your life?
Not
Um,
once. Um,
okay, so but here's something to think about. Like, what do you consider when you say best overall fighter? Um, to me, the best fighter is the one who wins the fights. And at UFC 10, Don Fry was absolutely destroyed by Mark the Hammer Coleman. And so
yeah,
I
I
don't think
mean,
you can say Don Fry was the best fighter of UFC 1 through 10 when Mark Coleman really put his stamp on the sport at the tail end of that period in 1996. There's no question that it was the age of the wrestler, and Mark Coleman was the best fighter. Did I blow your mind?
this is like really going to bother me now that I think about it. Because, man, okay, so let's say this. All right, let's go back. I'm sorry, and we're going to end it after this because we don't want to go long. We want you guys to actually like want to hear another one.
We've probably already gone way long.
I know, this is it. Go back to UFC 6, right?
Okay.
Anthony Mad Dog Macias doesn't throw the fight against Oleg. He threw the fight. He trained with Oleg. He wanted Oleg to win, and you could even see Oleg afterwards gives him this look like, "What the fuck did you just do that for?" Walks right into a choke. If Tank Abbott doesn't have to fight a fresh Oleg Taktarov, and Tank Abbott beats Oleg, does your opinion of Tank change?
Well, my opinion is that Tank is awesome and hilarious and makes the world a better place. And so my opinion of him does not change. But I think like the overall opinion, like winning a UFC tournament does make a difference. Like I think it would change the way that he's kind of perceived historically, which is right now is like the street fighter who they use to establish that martial arts was superior to street fighting. I think that's kind of where he stands now. And I don't think that's necessarily fair. And I think that would be different had he not lost that fight up in Casper, Wyoming.
That's where it was?
That's where it was. I know these things. I think that's right. That could be wrong, but I think that's right. It was like up in the mountains somewhere, and that's why like he got so tired. Supposedly, it wasn't because he was like a great big fat guy, but it was because they were at altitude.
And then what hurts my case is Don Fry beat Tank Abbott. You know,
it's true.
So really, then I'm living a lie.
I don't think there's any way you could make a case that Tank Abbott was the greatest fighter of this era. Like you could make a case that Tank Abbott was a fun person to have in the sport, and I know Campbell McLaren, who was like one of the head creative guys, like really thinks that Tank was an important draw, that like he attracted an audience to these early UFCs because he was so different than all the other like bow and be respectful kind of fighters. But I don't think you could say he was the best. I do think you could make an interesting case for Ken Shamrock if you wanted to.
So then if we went for the next 10 to 20, would you say Frank Shamrock?
I think he would be in the conversation, right? Although by that point, then you have to start considering people in Pride because, Pride was launched in 97.
Yeah, but you know what? They're not fighting in the UFC. They're in Pride. We're going UFC. Stick to the argument.
This is true.
You are a fake. And a phone.
I'm not tying myself to the guidelines set by Mr. Mike Neymark.
I do, because he invented Ken Shamroyd.
If he was so good, how come he doesn't have a podcast?
Because he probably has a life.
He probably has other things to do. So anyway, we have considered this and given many options. Basically, you could say any of the fighters are, because truly you're a winner just by stepping into the cage. And so
we all get
that's
trophies.
My answer.
Congratulations.
Everyone gets a trophy. Everyone from UFC 1 to 10 was the best fighter.
But the answer is Oleg Taktarov.
The answer is Mark Coleman.
It's Oleg Taktarov. Also, UFC 24 might be the worst UFC of all time.
Yeah, let's save that for another time.
Yep.
Because
even worse than UFC 33.
Oh, UFC 33. Which, to tie it all together, Vitor Belfort was supposed to be in the main event against your boy Tito Ortiz at
And
UFC
you know what happened?
33. He put his arm through a window while training in what was apparently like a closet or something. I don't know. I don't understand how this happened.
I think he was fighting in a boxing ring, or he was training in a boxing ring, and it was right next to a window, like literally, like on the wall of the gym. And he missed a punch or something, and it went right through the window.
Well, we can close by just reminding people that these things they happen in MMA.
And let's also close by saying there was a UFC 37.5, by the way.
Oh, it was awesome. It was.
Maybe we'll talk about that later.
It was in the Bellagio.
Yeah,
Don't get me started.
Yeah,
okay.
We'll do it later. Next time.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time, thanks you guys. Also, patreon.com/twowaydancepod. You can listen to us ramble, but this time about ECW television as we go week by week to document the episodes. You go, you donate a little bit of money. We don't see any of that money. Instead, it goes to help the wrestlers so you can change someone's life and also change your opinion of what you thought you knew about ECW television.
Awesome.